Genetic studies have found that Palestinian Arabs and Ashkenazi, Sephardic, and Mizrahi Jews share common ancient ancestors. How's that possible? To answer that question, we have to go back long before Palestine and Israel appear in the historic record. Around 3300 BC, Megiddo had grown from a farming village into one of the largest Canaanite city-states in the Levant. It was one of dozens of Canaanite kingdoms scattered across the region. Their inhabitants spoke related dialects, worshipped related gods, traded with one another, fought with one another, and shared a common culture. For thousands of years, historians debated what had become of the Canaanites. Then genetic science provided the answer. A study done at Hebrew University in collaboration with Harvard Medical School and Tel Aviv University compared the actual DNA from the bones of 93 individuals at 9 Canaanite sites across the Southern Levant. They then used the DNA collected from 22 individuals at Megiddo, the largest single group in the study, to compare to modern populations. The samples of modern populations were drawn from Palestinian Arabs and Ashkenazi, Moroccan, Ethiopian, and Iranian Jews, and other groups from across the Middle East, Europe, and North Africa. The result? Approximately 79 to 87% of Palestinian ancestry could be traced to the same population represented by the Bronze Age Megiddo samples. The numbers were about 58% for the Ashkenazi Jews, about 90% for the Iranian Jews, 63% for the Moroccan Jews, and 19% for the Ethiopian Jews. The Canaanites did not disappear. Their descendants are still here. Although the DNA survived in modern populations, languages, religions, and cultural identities would evolve and change again and again. The Bronze Age collapsed around 1150 BC, and out of the wreckage, a new political entity started to take shape in the southern hill country called Yehuda, or Judah. The local Canaanite dialect evolved into what we now call Hebrew. Jerusalem became a Hebrew city around the 10th century BC. The religion was evolving as well. Yahweh emerges as the chief deity of Judah. For centuries, the Canaanite goddess Asherah continued to be worshipped alongside Yahweh. In 722 BC, Assyria wiped the northern kingdom of Israel off the map. Then in 586 BC, the Neo-Babylonians conquered the states of the southern Levant. They destroyed Jerusalem and the temple and deported the Judeans and the neighboring Philistine elites to Babylon. In 539 BC, Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon. A year later, he issued an edict allowing the Jews to return and rebuild their temple. Although they had been in Babylon only about 50 years, many Jews chose to remain in the diaspora. The Philistines, who ruled a population of Canaanites, disappear from history after the Babylonian exile. The exile and diaspora is a tale of two classes. It was the ruling families, the religious and military leaders, scholars, merchants, and skilled craftsmen that were exiled. The peasants, who were the vast majority of the population, were left in place to keep the land productive and keep revenue flowing into imperial coffers. As the succession of empires ruled the Levant and opened secured trade routes, it was the same urban and the more mobile members of the society that joined the diaspora seeking economic opportunities. Jews, Greeks, and Phoenicians established communities from Spain to Babylon. By contrast, peasant households anchor identity to a specific plot of land worked across generations. The intellectual capital and networks of urban populations are portable rather than fixed in cultivated land, irrigation investment, centuries-old olive trees, and terracing. Even in the 19th century, it was the urban-educated Christian Palestinians who emigrated to the Americas, while the Fellahin remained rooted to their villages and ancient terraced slopes. During the Persian Empire, Aramaic replaced Hebrew. After Alexander the Great conquered the Levant, Greek would become the lingua franca of the urban and educated across the eastern Mediterranean. By the end of Greek rule, over half of the world's Jews lived in the diaspora. Like the Greek and Phoenician diasporas, these Jews were not expelled or exiled. They went looking for greener pastures and never looked back. After the Maccabean revolt against Seleucid Greek rule, the Hasmoneans established the first independent Jewish kingdom in nearly 450 years. They conquered the Idumeans and the Itureans and forcibly converted them to Judaism. This brought the Galilee and the region south of Judea around Hebron and Beersheba into the Jewish fold. Although forced to change their religion, they were the same people, in the same villages. This was a process that would repeat many times over in the next centuries. Judea was devastated after Rome crushed the Bar Kokhba revolt. Hundreds of thousands were killed, and tens of thousands more were sold into slavery. But there was no order to deport the survivors. Even if some of the enslaved were eventually freed and joined Jewish communities abroad, they would have added only a small number to a Jewish diaspora already numbering an estimated 4 to 5 million. With Jews barred from Jerusalem and Judea's population decimated, the center of Jewish life shifted north to Galilee. When Rome adopted Christianity, it launched campaigns of legal restrictions and persecution against both pagans and Jews. Over the following centuries, most of the peasantry of the Levant converted to Christianity. Once again, the religion changed, but the peasants still tilled the same land the same way and lived in the same villages. After the Arab conquest, Arabic would replace Aramaic and Greek as the lingua franca of the region. Over centuries, the majority of the inhabitants of what was now called Palestine became Muslim. David Ben-Gurion, in his 1918 book, Eretz Israel in the Past and Present, written with Itzhak Ben-Zvi, wrote, "The Fellahin are not descendants of the Arab conquerors, who captured Eretz Israel and Syria in the 7th century. The greater part of the Fellahin did not derive their origin from the Arab conquerors, but rather from the Jewish peasantry that was numerous and predominant in the building of the land." Over a century later, genetic research has yielded evidence supporting Ben-Gurion's hypothesis. The Palestinians, like the Italians and Libyans, took the name that the Greeks had given their region roughly 2,500 years ago. Nigeria and Indonesia followed a similar pattern in modern times. Names applied by external powers were later adopted by the native people. The ancestors of the people we today call Palestinians inhabited what is today Israel and Palestine thousands of years before the names Palestine, Israel, or Judea ever existed. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please like and subscribe.